guys, today I'm going to be filming my first ever booktube video. I am going to be doing my August wrap up today. Just before we get going, I'm really excited, sorry. Just before we get going, I'm going to say that I don't normally read this many books in a month. It's just because it's the holidays. I've got a lot of spare time, so I've read an awful lot of books this month. So let's go. The first book that I read was Winger by Andrew Smith. I really enjoyed this book. It was a contemporary read that I read on the beach, and I thought it was really good, really well written, and I liked the way that it had illustrations and sort of graphs and charts and things throughout, and I just thought it was really well written, but I'm just not a fan of contemporary, so yeah, this was 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was The Elites by Natasha Ngan. This is a proof copy that I got from a local book club that I go to, and it is a dystopian read about this girl who has been selected to be an elite who have to protect the city of Neobabble from everything, really. And there is a parade sort of thing, and she fails to stop the president's assassination on her watch, and there's this massive chain of events that is set off, and she has to basically leave the city with her best friend, and it is the generic dystopian read, although there is no love triangle, which I was very, very surprised about. But I just felt, for me, it was lacking the description that you need in a dystopian book to sort of, like, I couldn't feel for the characters because of the way that their life didn't seem too bad for me. So I only gave this 3 out of 5 stars, but I can see if there's a series, then I will be continuing, because I feel that if there's more than one, then it will work a bit better. The next book that I read was Nowhere by John Robinson. I really enjoyed this book. It was a nice short read, and it didn't take me too long. So I really enjoyed this, and I thought that the story was really good and suspenseful, and the cliffhanger ending was too much for me. So I am going to have to get the next one, and yes, I can't wait. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was Carrie by Stephen King. This is creepy. I was a bit disappointed because although I didn't really know anything about it, I thought it was going to be creepy in sort of a ghost way, but it was just creepy in the why are they like that, that's just strange sort of way. But yeah, it was really chilling. I just didn't really get into the story, and although it was written really well, I just couldn't really sort of get into it, and I don't know why, but yeah. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. I really enjoyed this, as I do with all of her books, and I just thought that obviously it was written really well, and I liked the way that it was different to most stories that I read this month, and that it just wasn't really generic, and I hadn't really heard of it before. But yeah. And I can't wait for the next one because it's so action-packed, and it's just, yeah, great. I loved it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read after that was The Winner's Curse by Marie Rutkowski. I really enjoyed this. It was really well written, and I thought it was really interesting how it was sort of a bit, you were left in the dark for quite a while, and then she introduced the plot, and you were like, oh, okay, I get it, that's good, lovely, great, they're in trouble. And then yeah, I just really enjoyed it after that, and I thought that the ending was great as well, and I can't wait to get The Winner's Crime. And yeah, I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. The book that I read after that was Endgame, The Calling by James Frey. I picked this book up about 2 months ago, like physically picked it up in a bookshop rather than bought it. And I read the back and I was like, oh, I need to get that book, I need to get it. And it was sort of the book that every time I thought about books afterwards, I was like, yeah, I need to get that. And then my nanny bought it for me, yeah, at the beginning of August, and I was like, stop everything, I'm going to read it. So I did, and I loved it, and I thought it was really good, and I liked the way that it was it resembled most other dystopian books for me, but in a way it didn't. I don't know, there just felt like there was something different. And the ending was also really good. And yeah, I've heard that there are training diaries, and whilst I can't wait for the next one to come out, I might get the training diaries, because then, you know, I can hop on the bandwagon and get more fangirly into this. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. The book that I read after that was Black Hearts in Battersea by Joan Aiken. This was again a really short read, and I read this on a rainy day, so it was sort of me forcing myself to pick it up after Endgame. As it was summer, I was just like, no, this should be light and fun, so I did, and this was a fun read. I did feel like it jumped around quite a lot, and I'm not just sure if that wasn't like because I was really reading it. That might have been the problem, but I did really enjoy it. I just thought it lacked much of a plot that was very interesting. So I gave this 2.5 out of 5 stars. The book that I read after that was Frozen Charlotte by Alex Bell. This is sort of a paranormal book, but I was disappointed to begin with at the lack of paranormal activity, because I thought that there would be more ghosts going on. But then when I realised it was more about the demonic possession, I don't even know if that's a thing, but it is now, and it was just like, oh, they're all telling you different stories, main character. Who is it? Who's telling the truth? And who actually is being possessed? And that was what I found really interesting, was just the mysteriousness of it. And just the way that it was written was really good as well. And I didn't think it was going to be scary at all, because it's sort of for younger, like, teen readers. But then it wasn't scary, it was just creepy. It was just like, no, that's just weird. But I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. The book that I read was Crown of Midnight by Sarah J Maas. I really enjoyed this book, and I loved the way that it was written. I liked it just as much as Throne of Glass, if not more. And yeah, I thought this was great. It was just brilliant, and the romance was like, and then the cliffhanger ending was cruel, and I need to read Heir of Fire because I'm really behind on this series, and I'm sure there are a lot of people out there catching up like I am for when Queen of Shadows comes out, and I just need to. But I did only give it 3.5 out of 5 stars because I did think that it was going to put me in a reading slump. After that, I read Back Home by Michelle Magorian. This is said to be a classic, but I don't think it's very old. It is, however, historical fiction, which I enjoyed, and I thought it was really well researched because it didn't need too much research, I don't think, going into it, because some historical fictions that I've read are sort of like, you've researched this too much because it needs too much information, and this was just the right amount, so it sounded like, you know, good. But yeah, I really enjoyed the writing style, and it was quick to read, but I did feel, because it was a kid's book, that there wasn't much of a story, so I only gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. This is the first book in the Chaos Walking trilogy. I've been meaning to read this trilogy for absolutely ages, and I started it about 2 months ago, and I got 50 pages into this one, and I was kind of like, the writing style was just annoying me because I'm a bit of a grammar Nazi, and it was like, no, that's not right. But then I sort of got over that, and I ended up loving this, and then this was left on a cliffhanger too, but because I was on holiday I didn't have the next one, so I came home and picked up the next one. And yeah, I love this. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was The Woman in Black by Susan Hill. This was a book that my dad took on holiday and he gave it to me to read on the last day because I didn't have anything left to read. It's really short, so I got through this really quickly, and I like the story, as I did with The Small Hand, which I read recently as well, but the thing that made it 3 out of 5 stars for me was the fact that it wasn't very ghosty and scary, which, because The Woman in Black as a film and as a play are so hyped to be absolutely terrifying and just chilling, I think the problem was that this just wasn't up to my expectations. I think I went in with too many expectations and too much hype on it, but yeah, it was a good story, so yeah, 3 out of 5 stars. The book that I read was Gangster Rap by Benjamin Zephaniah. I really enjoyed this book because I thought it was really well written, and I think that might be because he's a poet and that just sort of came across in his writing in a way. But I also thought that the story was excellent, and it's not a book that I would usually pick up, but just because I've read some of his things before, I would say that that sort of prompted me to pick it up. But I really enjoyed it and gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. I really enjoyed this and gave it 5 out of 5 stars, as I just thought that it was written so well that I could imagine myself being there in the bus with them, and I just found that I got really into it, unlike sort of books that I've read before this in a way. And I thought that that was a really enjoyable thing, so I really enjoyed this one and I can't wait to pick up Fangirl. Me and Earl and the Dying Girl by Jessie Andrews. I thought that this was a really good book actually. I didn't enjoy it as much as everybody else did because I just didn't really see the humour side of it, and although I thought it was great, it just lacked something for me, and I don't really know what it was, but I still gave this 4 out of 5 stars, and yeah, I might go and see the film. The last book that I read was The Blackthorn Key by Kevin Sands. This is a proof copy that I got from Book Group, and I, number one, think that this cover is beautiful, even though it's probably not the real thing, but I just really enjoyed this. It was a middle grade read, and I thought that it was really well described and the story was just really interesting, but I did feel that it was one of those books where I was more interested in the story than the writing itself, and that sort of made me rush it a bit, but I still really enjoyed it and gave it 4 stars. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, maybe like it and leave a comment down below of the books that you read in August, or maybe your favourite book that you read. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.